Starting with laughter here this fine Thursday morning. Hello, 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 and welcome to Electricpreneurs Secrets, another episode of the Electricians podcast. We're in episode 111. 11111. Or wait, is it 11112? I might have this backwards. We're on
Or either
112.
way,
Yesterday was 111, Joe. I said the wrong
wow.
number. But guess what? Either way, we're here again to help you, the electrician, master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level service. I keep saying this. If you ever end up on a call with us because you're interested in getting help with that, I'm going to ask you what I say at the beginning and end of every show. No one's nailed it just yet, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
We're going to get there. We'll get there.
It's always funny because the deer in headlights look is like, is he serious? Is this about him? Is this like an ego moment? That's what I feel when I ask that question, but it's really about the messaging, guys. So take it easy on me, okay?
Yeah, we're gonna grill you here. It's like, please tell me more about myself. It's like, no, that's not what's happening.
That's right. If you're with us in the Facebook group live and VIP on the Electripreneur Secrets community page, then you've already seen Peter Rinsland call me Clay Aitken today. So today I will be the pleasant peasant, your host, Clay Aitken of Electripreneur Secrets, here with my co-host, esteemed co-host, Joseph. I know I'm messing up your name too. Joseph the Sales Bot Lucani. Joe, how you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm sorry. You threw me hard with the Clay Aiken. You've been Chad. You've been Clay Aiken. I'm waiting for some guy to call you Bob. I'm waiting for it. Like, yeah, hey, whatever works. Chameleonic. Yeah. Believe it or not, chameleonic sales is a thing. So maybe that's your interior calling. Like, you never know, right?
Well, since you brought it up, like, what is that? What's chameleonic sales mean?
Oh, okay. I love that. So chameleonic sales is a type of sales strategy to where what you do is you're mirroring the other person and mimicking their voice inflection, tone, and body language. What it does is it's hard to actuate skill, but if you can do it correctly, it subconsciously lowers someone's defenses and guard because what they see is themselves. Now, the problem is that if they hate themselves, they'll also find a way to hate you.
Wow. You took that to a different level. I've never heard the hate piece before.
Well, think about it. Let's say everyone wants to work with someone that's like them to an extent.
Yeah.
Except for those who dislike themselves. So usually where that comes into is, let's say you're dealing with, I hate to pull a stereotype, but let's say you got the sleazy car salesman, right? And this person, you go to their home and they're used to screwing people over on a regular basis. Now, I don't have nothing against car salesmen, but I'm just using a stereotype. But let's make it even further. Guy's flipping a nickel and he's got a toothpick. Suspenders on his arm. Chewing an apple. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Is he wearing a top hat, right? Too? A little bucket hat?
Yeah, and a little mustache. The whole thing with a handlebar, just twirling it. Maybe a cape and a goatee. Like, you get it. But either way, the point is, this person is less likely going to trust what they see in you if what they're doing to others is deceitful. But for most of us who operate with integrity, when you're mirroring the integrity of someone else, they say, this is someone who gets me. This is someone I can relate with. This is someone I understand. And that concept is called chameleonic selling. And it's based on the chameleon. You put a chameleon in front of one thing, it's something. You put it in front of something else, it's something else. So it requires almost a mind like water mentality. You have to be able to ebb and flow throughout whatever you're going to find. It's very advanced level sales, but it's really impressive when you can pull it off.
Well, I appreciate that. And it was unexpected. That's one of the beautiful things about throwing out all the fancy shit, Joe, and just showing up. We just show up, have great conversations, and today we got to learn something from you there. Chameleonic sales. I like that. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Today, I also want to touch on something really important, and it's our topic of the day. And it's, well, the question was, how much should you pay yourself as an electrician? But it's a little deeper than that, Joe. We're really going to dial into some business problems, something that I hear on the calls sometimes. And I think it comes from just a lack of business training. And I think there's a lot of people who relate to this. Because when you start a business, let me ask you, how likely is it that A, no one taught you business? That you never had a journeyman or a business owner going, Hey, Joe, you know what? It would be really great if I taught you how to run my business so that you could one day be my competitor.
Yeah, not going to happen.
It doesn't
It's a shame
happen,
though.
right? It is a shame. I agree. Please tell us why. Why is it a shame?
So the thing is it's once again the race to the bottom mentality. People are so afraid that you're going to take what's theirs that they're not willing to help. And because they're not willing to help, the ships always stay low because we're always in low tide. But let's say, sake of argument, you were to say, like you, for an example, you're a qualified, competent, very, very intelligent person. I'm pretty sure I could take you into any position in any company and you'd somehow thrive. If I recognized you as an employee and said, this person has the ability of thriving and growing, it would make my business better by putting you in a position of power.
Empowering me.
But
Love it.
but some people don't because they see you as a threat, or the you that we're describing here as a threat. This person is too smart. This person's capable. This person could do better than me.
Hmm.
Personally, I love being the least intelligent and least successful person in the room because that means the influence around me only will make me better. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, I got to get out of that room.
I love that. Yeah, totally true, man. And I follow the same philosophy, right? That's why I'm in the room with you.
Man, you
Get to
honor
learn
me.
about
You honor me,
chameleon and
Clay.
sales and all the rest. No, for sure. Someone's standing on your shoulders and they want to empower you to do everything you can at that level, but absolutely hold you back, hold you down from rising up anywhere beyond that level. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not a great leadership quality to have. Quite the opposite is what we encourage. Go ahead, show people the ladder and dare
Mm-hmm.
them to climb it. Help them climb it. Because just like we said the other day, you can make a situation so sweet and so easy for them that they don't want to leave anyway. And they just appreciate you and your mentorship. Let's not forget, it's lonely at the top. Heavy is the
Mm-hmm.
head that wears the crown. It
Mm-hmm.
is not easy to run a business. It is not easy to be top dog. It's not easy to make executive decisions every day. And I
Mm-hmm.
fear that that's why so many of us are out there running fire to fire right now in basically a time management dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the topic of today, but it really fits there, Joe.
It does. And honestly, the thought of a dumpster fire is a great analogy for what it looks like when you're running a business without proper leadership. Because it's true, right? I know for personal experience, I was a good installer. I had a sales understanding. It was like, okay, great. I can go do the job. What's stopping me? I'm already doing the jobs. I'm already selling the jobs. Why can't I do this for myself? Until you realize that, oh, I'm not familiar with how the tax structures work or how write-offs work or how marketing works. It's the same problem. It ends
Mm,
up being a dumpster fire and you're the one holding the match.
absolutely. I appreciate that. Now, today I want to get into a bit of some nerdy stuff because we're talking
Oh,
about
thank
pay
God.
and we're talking about accounting a little bit. I know we've all got some stories. So earlier, I was being featured on another podcast. I'm going to do an interview on. It's called the Startup Shit Show. I've got some
Mhm.
experience there. If you've heard my interview, you know what I'm talking about. This isn't my first business. I did make a mess with my first one, though. And the first question that Travis Johnson had, the podcast Titan had for me was, do you pay yourself? And I was like, yeah, I do. But it made me realize the number of times I've been on calls where I've recognized situations where electricians
Mhm.
aren't paying themselves. And what I mean
Mhm.
by that, just so we're not puzzling anyone, is paying yourselves first. I think this fully comes around and
Mhm.
becomes a big piece of that pricing problem, Joe. And so it's so important that I
Yeah,
think we covered this today. So,
I'm
can
so
you
there
tell
with
us a
you.
bit of your early experience in business and how you
Mhm.
evolved from not paying yourself to paying yourself?
Sure. So when we started our startup, it was just me and my partner at the time. You know, he was the manager, I was the installer. Like we had it like, well, you can manage this, I can install this. We're going to figure it out together. Now, I had a wedding to plan that was in the near future, and we still took the leap, right? And the thing was, we didn't know how to pay ourselves. We assumed that the way it worked was, well, jobs will come in, and like we just assumed work will just show up.
Yep.
We'll then close whatever it is that shows up. We'll make a fair enough profit that we can pay for everything. And then I could sit with a nice fat check at the end. And it never quite worked that way.
That's kind of
So
the
much
what's
so,
left mentality, right?
it was it was the worst. And when you work on the what's left mentality, I can tell you what you get. That first month's salary was $300 that month.
Wow.
That was lower than I had ever. I was working as a cashier when I was super young, and I was making more than $300 a month.
Mm,
So to be a licensed professional leading a business and walking with pennies, it was probably the most demoralizing thing in the world.
yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
But there are ways out of it. The ways out of it was, believe it or not, when I was reading the book Mike Michalowicz wrote, Profit First. I remember going through it and it started to make sense because it was like, okay, instead of just saying, well, I'm going to spend everything and then whatever's left over, I'm going to keep. Instead, I almost imagined it like a bunch of envelopes. This envelope is marketing. This envelope is this. This envelope is that. And I put myself as an envelope. And before I could pay the essentials, I was considered an essential. So we had to pay ourselves, even if it was pennies, the money had to go into the account.
I love
And
it.
as the business grew, we were able to get out of that mentality.
Yeah. Super important. So bridging back to this problem, I think this is where a lot of it stems from is most of us start a business with kind of one foot in, dip the toe in the
Mm-hmm.
pool. Don't just dive in, right? And what I mean by that is the very same thing I did with my concrete company, my first business that was also a startup shit show. Sole proprietorship. My account is the business account, right? All the transactions will happen. Like you said, Joe, I'm going to earn money. I'm going to spend money. In fact, in many cases, for a lot of these guys, having to save a little or have some money to go buy materials on some of these first jobs and then float that for likely the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, sometimes 30, 60, 90 days, and hopefully get paid in time and try to figure out this whole timing mess. And again, you end up with this what's left problem because you're seeing your pay as whatever is left after the dust clears. But the reality is, just to add that extra complexity, if you're out there doing projects, which a lot of new electricians fall into, like some residential builds, additions, whatever, there always seems to be a lack of payment terms, a lack of communication on those payment terms. And so a
Mm-hmm.
huge juggle and a massive risk that results in no pay. Would you believe it if I told you I've been on the call with people who've been working in their business for a year and a half and haven't paid themselves?
Would I believe it? Yes. Does it break my heart to hear? Also, yes. I cannot imagine. Like the thought of it actually hurts even more. And can I explain why?
Yeah,
The reason being is that if you've been in business for a year and a half and you haven't paid yourself, but you've survived to this point, it's only one of two things that could have happened. Either A, you had a phenomenal financial structure prior to making the leap. And it sucks because I know what it's like to build that base up and then watch it dwindle.
deplete it.
I can only imagine how heartbreaking it is to see the mountain you've built be slowly chipped away. It's like, or on the other side of the coin, they're literally just flying by the seat of their pants and just taking whatever crumbs can get.
Yeah,
And neither situation is a situation I would wish on anyone.
exactly. That's tough, right? And so, how this plays into that pricing problem is exactly this pricing forces us to make a projection up front
Mhm.
of the expenses of this year, right? If I'm talking about having people in the field, well, I'm going to assume 2,000 hours just because it's full time. Even if they're averaging 34, 35 hours a week, I don't want to deduct from that because in my pricing exercise, I want to be looking at it, not looking for it. Just
I
like I
like
want
that.
that to arrive in my bank account and be looking at it, not looking for it. Otherwise, with this what's left problem, we end up with more month at the end of the money than money at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in that pricing exercise, guys, I really want to encourage you to decide what it is you need to make.
Mm-hmm.
And full disclosure here, that's how we pay ourselves still to this day. Yes, things grow. Yes, lifestyle increases. Yes, you have a plan to increase that salary, that payment to yourself. But there's ways to do that, like a commission structure to yourself, like performance pay to yourself, like dividends
Mm-hmm.
checks to yourself for good performance. And so very much the same. We know what we need. Do you know what you need, Joe, to pay your bills every month?
Literally, if you ever wanted to, I could tell you to the cent everything that comes out in and every month. I am great with that number.
I love that you said that because a mentor of mine, many have said this actually, how you do one thing is how you do everything. What
Yes.
we know about business is if we're loose in our pockets at home, pull the mirror out and then look at your
Mhm.
business. And I would bet it's reflecting the exact same picture.
Can I actually speak to that?
Please.
Because you said perfectly. I remember, and I'm sure this is something that a lot of other businesses had gone through. Have you ever been in a situation to where you're looking at the money and you're like, how are we going to get all this paid? How did the bills get so high? How did these expenses get to where they were? And the problem is because we weren't mindful of it. It was like, oh, it's $50 a month. We make $100,000 a month. We can swing $50 a month. But then it adds and it adds and it adds and it adds. And then a six-figure salary doesn't cover it anymore. So the thing is I learned, and actually one of my financial mentors, Josh Lupo, who runs the Fi Couple, he told me to have really get hyper analytical on everything at home. So this, instead of running the business spreadsheets, I brought my personal spreadsheets to the business.
Yes.
And then it became like, okay, run it like it's your money, like it's coming out of your bank account every time. And if you're not willing to make an expense, then strike it and make do with what you have.
I love that. There's some big nuggets here again. This is kind of reminding me of the cash management secret series that
Mm-hmm.
we did just about a month ago or so. But you just reminded me of something else. And there's this quote from Einstein that I always loved.
Ooh.
He called it compound interest is the eighth wonder of
Mm-hmm.
the world, he says, right? He
Yep.
who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays it. But if that's true, then the ninth wonder of the world is something you just mentioned, expense creep,
Mm.
lifestyle creep. Next thing you know, we've got this $250,000 lifestyle and we can't afford it because there's been financial changes on the front end, because
That's,
something changed, right? Or you've been spending it all, and over the years, it amounts to nothing.
believe it or not, that's there's actually a term for that. Warren Buffett came up with it.
Okay,
It's a
what is it?
concept of gold. It's called golden handcuffs.
I
So
do
pretty much
know
what
this.
golden handcuffs are is that they're too heavy to be felt, or they're too light to be felt until they're too heavy to move.
Mm,
What that means is that expense creep grows with your lifestyle creep. And as you make more, you start spending more. You make more, you spend more. You make more, you spend more until suddenly you are at max saturation and you're realizing you're like, I make $200,000 a year. I make 300,000, I make $400,000 a year and I'm still broke.
yeah.
What's happening? And then at that point, you realize you already have a house and a second house and the Ferrari. And now all these bills got to get paid. And they got to get paid from someone. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that someone's you now.
100%. 100%. I love that. So taking this back to the relation to your personal finances,
Mm,
bridges back to what you said. I love how you said, well, what I started doing is bringing my personal spreadsheets forth into business.
mm,
So often, in fact, I would say 99.8% of the time, when we are working through pricing with people and I ask them this simple question, how much do you need to earn this year personally?
mm,
They don't have the answer, Joe. They don't know. Now, again, how you do one thing is how you do everything, at least with a grain of
mm,
salt. And so it's no surprise that we help with the bottom floor of business. We help with
mm,
pricing, marketing, and sales. Once you
mm,
check all three of those things off, you've mastered the exchange and your business can grow to the next levels. So
mm,
we help at the bottom floor. That's what we do. So is it a surprise that people with pricing, marketing, and sales problems have personal financing um, gaps? I would say as well.
yeah.
No, not really, right? Not considering your business is a mirror of your person.
Mm,
But let me double underline the importance of this. Just as Joe said, you need to know how much you need to earn in a month to cover your bills, because
mm,
that assumes that you understand your bills. That assumes that you understand your responsibilities and your accountabilities.
You got that one.
And if you don't have that, then how could you possibly know what you need to earn? And if you don't know what you need to earn, how could you possibly know what the bills are for your business? You see how this is adding up. And if you don't know what the
Mhm.
bills are for your business, how could you possibly know your fair service rate for billing for your services?
It becomes impossible. And you know the biggest problem that comes from that, and I'm pretty sure we've seen it as well.
Yeah,
And we say, well, what do you think you need to charge? Oh, about $200.
about
The about is the dangerous part. It's
why?
like if you just said I need to charge $200, I'd believe you.
Yeah,
But if you said I have to charge about $200, it's like there's first off, no one should be charging $200. We need more than that. But second, it's when you say I only need about, you clearly don't know. And if you
yeah,
don't know, how can you ensure it? When a customer looks at you in the face and says, "Why are you so much?" You better have a damn good answer.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
confidence, if I know what it is, will often sell the job for you.
exactly. And if that wasn't a mic drop moment, I'm going to try to create another one right here.
Go
So
for it.
when
Send it
when
up.
contractors say to us, well, that pricing won't work here. Not on the east side of the Mississippi, not down here in Texas, not up here in Canada, not out here in the plains, wherever they are. And we always say, yes, it will,
Mhm.
because it's based on your expenses. When they say that, what they really are saying is, where I live, I can't bill based on the expenses that I've accrued to run this business,
Mhm.
plus a markup that would sustain my growth to build this business. In which case, if someone was really asking you that, wouldn't you then ask them, what the fuck are you doing then?
Yeah. It makes complete
Why do
sense.
this? Do you like punishment?
Some people do. Hey, I'm not going to knock it. But at the same time, think about it. When these people are asking and saying, what am I doing? Sometimes it's because we don't know any better. Like, I knew that working for myself was probably the best move I could make just because of how I am as a person. And if you don't know that, how could you possibly say, you know what? Yeah, I work best like this. I'm going to go work for someone else. But you have to know yourself first. Some people are in a situation to where they know they can't work with other people, but they can't figure it out on their own anyway. So it's a rock and a hard place between I know I can't go left and I know that my business isn't letting me go right. And all I see is the walls coming in. And that's where desperation and panic kicks in.
Definitely. Huge. So here's the good news, guys. We're going to turn this around. That's really examining the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
We have to stop looking at this as a sole proprietorship. You need to account for a salary for yourself because whether you work or not, you need to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't pay yourself, then you can't be in business.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. It's not even a business, it's a promotion at that point. You're just working for free, right? That's a promotion, isn't it?
It's a great promotion if you don't mind. I wouldn't mind someone coming
I
working in my
wouldn't
house for
mind
free.
some of
Like,
that
please, by
either.
all means, line up. I will gladly take the working for free.
So here's the exciting thing. Sometimes on these calls, too, just the same, we'll ask this hard question. Where do you see yourself in 1,000 days? What's your business look like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And quite often, it draws a blank. Well, really, I haven't thought past this month. I got payroll to meet. And not even for themselves, for their team, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about for your person? What about the character that you're cultivating? As our late great mentor, Jim Rohn, would say, you've got to have a plan, right? Design a life of your own, or you'll fall into someone else's plan, and you know what they have planned for you.
Not much.
Not much. So, this is what we're sure about. Your pricing can be anything but someone else's. It's got to be yours because it's built off the money you need to float your bank in your home, your personal needs. It's built
Mm-hmm.
off the vision that you have for your business, no matter what template you follow. You don't have to do it like anyone else. You don't. You could do it any way you want. And the proof's in the pudding, like with our client Edwin. 11 months in, right from 2 weeks into business, he began working with us, got his pricing right first. It was built off the full comprehensive plan between personal and a congruent plan between personal and business life. And at this point, 11 months in, full van wrap, full website, right? Second van, second wrap, journey person, and a helper. Now, some people grow faster than that, and some people never get to that level. And that's who we're
Mhm.
really speaking to here is, look, if you want to get there, all you have to do is put a plan in place to do it.
Mhm.
Take the steps, and most importantly, pay yourself to do that. Because even in your personal plan, you can say, well, look, I need $60,000 this year. And my next step would be to say, well, okay, great. I'm glad you have a number. Is that an optimized number, or is that just looking at your bills and recognizing what we need to make? That's my next logical step.
Mhm.
Because where I'm taking it next is to just a moment of tax planning. We can
Mhm.
look up the tax tables federally and in your state or province, and you can actually do a projection on how much tax you pay. So for me, I like to max my tax bracket. So I know
Mhm.
I said 60 earlier, but in reality, it's closer to 82. That's my salary. Then, based on performance of the business, we take bonuses beyond that. It's an incredible way to still be fruitful and recognize the efforts that you put forth and the performance that you're experiencing. Does that make sense, Joe?
It really does. And really, it comes down to maximizing everything that we know about how to leverage this effort. If you're going to put in that much effort, like it almost seems like a shame to not pay yourself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that you said maximizing your tax bracket because taxes are also things that people don't really understand. I mean, for all of us in the States, it's usually the IRS comes at you with it's this big giant dude with a club just thumping it against his hand, like, hey, you're going to pay me this month, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that you can also learn about how that game is played and play it smart. And when you know the rules of it, just like knowing the rules of business, you can make educated and accurate, well thought out decisions. So knowledge
Absolutely.
becomes power.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here's one of the telltales I always know when someone says to me, we get on a call and they're telling me about the performance of their business. And it's like, oh, yeah, first year we did 180K
Mhm.
with about a 48% net profit. That to me is always the moment where I go, okay, how much did you pay yourself?
Mhm.
And I know immediately that they're a sole proprietor because that's the telltale sign that they didn't pay themselves first and that they're just considering what's left to be theirs. Well, I guess about 40 grand because that's what was
Mhm.
left. That what's left problem, guys. Don't fall victim to that. Okay, we're running out of time here. Joe, you want to crank out a couple of action items? Do you have anything in mind?
Yes. I
Would you
can go
like
with
action
something.
or all star?
I got no preference. Either way, we'll roll with it. So I'll take action for start.
Are you going personal?
So what?
Are you going personal?
Yeah, I'll be happy to go personal on
All
this.
right.
So when you need to start with a plan, right? Like no matter what you do at the very most rock bottom level, really comes down to understanding your personal finances. Now, we touched on it earlier, and the reason why was you cannot figure out what you need to charge if you have no idea what you need to make. So the most bare minimum is literally sit down with your spouse and say, let's come up with a list of all the bills that we have. Now, some people might say it's overwhelming. So I have an easier way. The bare minimum, like I'm talking the easiest thing you can do is just get one family credit card. What you do is you get one family credit card with a cashback bonus. What you'll do is then all your expenses get transferred to one card. Then at that point, the following month, you'll be able to see every bill that you have. And the fun part is the bills that you didn't remember, the sneaky ones that kind of creep in, you're going to get a letter from them and they're going to say, hey, you haven't paid us. You'll be like, I didn't even know I was paying you. So by consolidating your card, you can at least understand what your bills are going to be so that you have a position of saying, it's all here. Here are the numbers. What can we cut?
Absolutely. I love it. Okay, I'll throw in the all-star today. I'm not an accountant. Joe's not an accountant. We're
Mhm.
not accountants. Big flashing sign. Flashing sign. Yeah, I said that. You
Yeah, go
get the
for it.
point, right? We don't carry those credentials, guys. Everything we talk about is based on business math and business experience and the growth that we've seen and the potential that electrical contractors tend to have to design a business that they envision. Okay, and you can do the same. but you should have a tax accountant. I love tax accountants. Why? Because they do all the complicated shit. They help us with tax position. They help us reduce and plan. And that's really important. It's important to me and it's important to you. So if you're someone that doesn't have a great relationship with an accountant, I'm going to really push this here. If you don't have those good feels from your accountant, because this is someone you want to spend half a life with, I want you to meet with them quarterly, or at least have a check-in to make sure, oh yeah, no, we don't need anything this quarter, but I want that appointment set up for you. I want you to have such a great relationship that that accountant can look you in the face and say, Joe, you're being stupid right now.
That'd be nice.
That's the
That'd be
kind of
nice to have an
person you
accountant with
want
that
in your
level of
corner.
honesty.
Absolutely. So if you don't have that relationship yet, guys, seek it out. Find that person. We did. I'm quite happy with our selection. It did take going through some difficult people, some less than adequate premium service providers. Let's put it that way.
Amen to that.
Okay, guys, this has been another episode of Electricpreneur Secrets, the Electricians podcast, number 112, not 111. I'm Clay Aitken. This is Joseph Lucani, and we're here with you guys 5 days a week to help you master sales, simplify pricing, pay yourself first, and deliver premium level electrical service. We'll see you again tomorrow for the end of the week show. Cheers to your
Take care.
success.